This is the bit of neuroscience that we all need to understand. I wish I'd known this when I was in my 20s. The prefrontal cortex is the front of your brain that is often referred to as the thinking brain. It's where reasoning, integrating, problem solving, and lots of creative thought happens. It's the most important part of your brain when you're at work. In contrast, the amygdala is part of what's called, often referred to as the limbic system or the emotional brain, and it's plays a very primitive role in our functioning. So its only role, this tiny part of our brain, somewhere back here, is to be constantly scanning the environment for potential threat and potential reward. So this is the bit of the brain that was critical to our ancestors when an animal was walking towards them and they were figuring out, is this food or is it going to eat me? And it works really quickly when it does perceive threat to change everything in our physiology. Have I got it right so far? It's me. And the critical thing is it happens at lightning speed. So when the amygdala perceives saber-toothed tiger coming towards me, it triggers a whole series of events in the body which the thinking brain hasn't even had time to process. Before the thinking brain's even had a moment to consider the size of the risk and how bad is it genuinely, all of those things are happening inside the body. So this happens now to us, even when we're sitting at our desk and there's no saber-toothed tiger. It was really, really useful for our ancestors, probably a little bit less useful for us. Because the physical and physiological changes are, well, you probably are familiar with the fight or flight syndrome. Everyone heard of that? Do you know what happens when fight or flight is triggered? Very, very rapidly your blood chemistry changes because cortisol and adrenaline, the two stress hormones, are circulated through your system at lightning speed. And they're preparing you for more physical strength. You're getting ready to run. So really useful at the start of a marathon. Not so useful when you're sitting at your desk panicking about a piece of work. Because as your body is preparing for that extra physical strength, your prefrontal cortex is being denied this constant healthy supply of oxygen and glucose, which is normally being fed to it through the bloodstream, because they are being diverted elsewhere, getting you ready to run. So you're probably familiar with some of the feeling around that, like what actually happens. You know that feeling of sweaty palms, your heart starts to move much faster, the breath becomes more shallow. You might feel a bit shaky and tingly. And there's only one thing in all of those immediate physical symptoms that you can change. Do you know what that is? You can't control your heart rate. Breathing, yeah. Who was at the mindfulness session over lunch? Fantastic, yeah. So you know, if you've ever practiced any kind of mindfulness, you know that what an immediately calming effect it has on the body as soon as you start to be aware of taking slower, deeper breaths.